Williams' team says she has been diagnosed with primary progressive aphasia and frontotemporal dementia. These are conditions associated with changes in behavior, communication, and personality. Now, if this sounds familiar, it may be because back in 2022, actor Bruce Willis was diagnosed with aphasia, which has progressed to frontotemporal dementia. The announcement comes just days before the premiere of a Lifetime documentary about Williams' physical and mental health that is set to air this weekend. For more on this, we want to bring in Dr. Romy Mushtaq. She's the neurologist and chief wellness officer at Great Wolf Resorts. Dr. Mushtaq, thanks for being with us. She's also the author of the book, The Busy Brain Cure, the 8-week plan to find focus, tame anxiety, and sleep again. Dr. Mushtaq, let's talk first about just this condition in general. What are some of the symptoms? And, Wendy is only 59 years old. Bruce Willis was young as well. Is there a typical age of diagnosis?
Vicki, good morning, and my heartfelt condolences out to Wendy, her loved ones, and all of her fans. Frontotemporal dementia is a form of dementia that typically happens at a younger age. Average age of diagnosis is around 45 to 65, and it's an actual group of different types of dementia. One type can affect personality, and the type that they're saying Wendy has can affect speech, known as frontotemporal dementia with primary progressive aphasia. Right there, you can see it can affect both the frontal lobe of the brain, right at the front behind your forehead, and the temporal lobe behind the ears, as we're seeing on the brain scans here.
Dr. Mushtaq, how is this disease typically diagnosed and how does it progress?
Yeah, it's not an easy diagnosis and it can take time. Sometimes the first symptoms are behavioral changes or difficulty speaking. So it's a careful clinical history. In some, there may be a family history. It is not clear with Wendy, and a genetic variant as well. How it's diagnosed is by a neurologist specializing in memory with a careful physical exam as well as an MRI of the brain, and additional type of imaging known as SPECT imaging that can show how glucose and other tracers are taken up in the frontal and temporal regions of the brain. So it often can take a long time to diagnose and can be a diagnosis of exclusion, which is not easy.
And doctor, what happens next? How is this treated? How does someone like Wendy move forward?
Sadly, Vicki, there is no actual cure for frontotemporal dementia or primary progressive aphasia. Supportive care is what's needed. It's very common to have behavioral outbursts or mood, and there are psychiatric medications for that. Speech pathology and language pathology can help with, prolonging the ability to use language. But the most important thing is that skilled nursing care is given to caregivers, because it can be very difficult to watch a loved one so young suffer.
Yeah, our best thoughts are with Wendy, her family, and her caregivers. Dr. Romy Mushtaq, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you, Vicki.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
Wendy Williams' life has been a journey marked by incredible highs and devastating lows. From her reign as one of the most influential and outspoken talk show hosts to recurrent battle with serious health challenges, her story has taken a heartbreaking turn. Now her son, Kevin Hunter Jr., has spoken out, overwhelmed with emotion. Through tears, he shared his despair, expressing a painful belief that his mother may never fully recover. It's a situation no child should ever have to face, and the details surrounding Wendy's condition only make it more heart-rending.
Primary progressive aphasia and frontotemporal dementia. These are conditions associated with changes in behavior, communication, and personality. Now, if this sounds familiar, it may be because back in 2022, actor Bruce Willis was diagnosed with aphasia, which has progressed to frontotemporal dementia. The announcement comes just days before the premiere of a Lifetime documentary about Williams' physical and mental health that is set to air this weekend. For more on this, we want to bring in Dr. Romy Mushtaq. She's the neurologist and chief wellness officer at Great Wolf Resorts. Dr. Mushtaq, thanks for being with us. She's also the author of the book, The Busy Brain Cure, the 8-week plan to find focus, tame anxiety, and sleep again. Dr. Mushtaq, let's talk first about just this condition in general. What are some of the symptoms? And, Wendy is only 59 years old. Bruce Willis was young as well. Is there a typical age of diagnosis?
Vicki, good morning, and my heartfelt condolences out to Wendy, her loved ones, and all of her fans. Frontotemporal dementia is a form of dementia that typically happens at a younger age. Average age of diagnosis is around 45 to 65, and it's an actual group of different types of dementia. One type can affect personality, and the type that they're saying Wendy has can affect speech, known as frontotemporal dementia with primary progressive aphasia. Right there, you can see it can affect both the frontal lobe of the brain, right at the front behind your forehead, and the temporal lobe behind the ears, as we're seeing on the brain scans here.
Dr. Mushtaq, how is this disease typically diagnosed and how does it progress?
Yeah, it's not an easy diagnosis and it can take time. Sometimes the first symptoms are behavioral changes or difficulty speaking. So it's a careful clinical history. In some, there may be a family history. It is not clear with Wendy, and a genetic variant as well. How it's diagnosed is by a neurologist specializing in memory with a careful physical exam, as well as an MRI of the brain, and additional type of imaging known as SPECT imaging that can show how glucose and other tracers are taken up in the frontal and temporal regions of the brain. So it often can take a long time to diagnose and can be a diagnosis of exclusion, which is not easy.
And doctor, what happens next? How is this treated? How does someone like Wendy move forward?
Sadly, Vicki, there is no actual cure for frontotemporal dementia or primary progressive aphasia. Supportive care is what's needed. It's very common to have behavioral outbursts or mood, and there are psychiatric medications for that. Speech pathology and language pathology can help with, prolonging the ability to use language. But the most important thing is that skilled nursing care is given to caregivers, because it can be very difficult to watch a loved one so young suffer.
Yeah, our best thoughts are with Wendy, her family, and her caregivers. Dr. Romy Mushtaq, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you, Vicki.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
Reports indicate that Wendy Williams' health has drastically deteriorated. Allegedly, she is battling alcohol-induced dementia, leaving her unable to walk, talk, or think clearly. It's almost unimaginable that the vibrant, sharp, and often controversial Wendy Williams we once knew is now described as a shadow of her former self. What makes this heartbreaking situation even more tragic is the apparent lack of genuine care and support from those around.
The 59-year-old hosted the Wendy Williams show for more than a decade and has been open in the past about her health struggles, which included Graves' disease and a thyroid condition. Her team says the medical diagnosis was made sometime last year. Medical experts say primary progressive aphasia is caused by the deterioration of brain tissue important for speech and language. It also is the same disease that Bruce Willis is battling.
Kevin Jr. has reportedly been very vocal about his frustration with the people in Wendy's life. He's claimed that as long as Wendy is surrounded by, individuals who enable her destructive behaviors, instead of helping her, she won't stand a chance of recovery. And honestly, can you blame him? When someone is battling addiction and severe health issues, the last thing they need is a circle of enablers who prioritize their own interest over the well-being of the person they claim to care about.
I want to go to the breaking story that we have about Wendy Williams. This is very sad, and this is a report coming from TMZ. And we can put that picture up full mass. According to the report from TMZ, Wendy Williams is now permanently incapacitated from dementia. According to TMZ, things don't sound good for Wendy Williams right now. Her battle with dementia has left the former talk show host in a state of permanence as it relates to her dementia, at least according to her guardian. There's a new legal filing. That legal filing was obtained by TMZ. Wendy's guardian claims that she has been afflicted by early onset dementia, and as a result has become cognitively impaired and permanently incapacitated. That is a TMZ report. Wendy was diagnosed with dementia back in May of 2023, about 1 year after she was placed under a legal guardianship overseeing her health and finances. The court filing is part of a legal skirmish, basically, between Wendy's guardian, whose name is Sabrina Morrissey, and the Where is Wendy Williams documentary. TMZ broke the story where the Guardian sued back in February to stop the documentary from coming out. The documentary was ultimately released on Lifetime, and it highlighted Wendy's struggles with alcohol, including a scene where she downed an entire bottle of vodka. In this filing, the Guardian is asking the court to redact certain portions of the case to protect Wendy's privacy, namely information about her health, familial relationships, and her finances. So there are many people who have been adversely impacted by the reality of dementia in this country and beyond. I remember my grandmother having dementia and how you have a person who's there but not there. So obviously this is a very, very difficult time for the family, for those who love her and care for her, for the friends. And so our positive thoughts and positive prayers and positive vibrations are with her and her family. Sharon?
You feel for her. I've heard people say, and we all have family members who we love, and it's like they're disappearing before us, which is tougher often, at least I've heard it said, than losing someone suddenly. Wendy Williams is someone I encountered early on in my career. She was in Philadelphia at the time. She was mostly good to me, thank goodness. But she's brilliant, and we'll never be able to take that away. I wish those around her, and I'm not referring to the Guardian here, I don't know, were more protective of her, like Bruce Willis's family is. He has aphasia. And they are respectful of his legacy. And I'd like to see that done here with Wendy Williams.
Wendy Williams' team has released an update on her health, revealing that the former talk show host has been diagnosed with primary progressive aphasia and frontotemporal dementia. The 59-year-old, who helmed the Wendy Williams show for over a decade, has always been open about her health struggles, which include Graves' disease and a thyroid condition.
The question, where is Wendy Williams? Fans have expressed concern for the talk show queen for years. Deborah Roberts sat down with a member of her family.
Here's Wendy!
For 12 seasons, she reigned supreme on her unflinching, unapologetic daytime gossip fest, The Wendy Williams Show, with that signature greeting.
How you doing? How you doing? How you doing?
No celebrity off limits during her often scorching hot topics.
Mariah, I don't know who you think you're fooling with this one.
But this morning, the 59-year-old self-proclaimed queen of all media is herself the hot topic in a jarring new Lifetime documentary, Where is Wendy Williams? From the start, we witness an erratic and shockingly thin Wendy.
This documentary is hard to watch.
I know.
Very hard to watch.
Yeah. I said I wasn't going to cry because I feel like I've cried enough over the last year and a half. But what people are going to see is a broken woman who has had the world on her shoulders for so long and just cracked.
Alex Finney, Wendy's niece and goddaughter, now breaking the family silence.
I feel like I've been living in this secret bubble for a very long time.
Lifetime producers witnessing low moments with excessive drinking, fits of anger,
Go! Die! I have no idea where we are.
and bouts of incoherence.
I have no friends. You know how many people come out to support you? You know how many people love you? No, I don't.
Some people are going to look at this and say, this is exploitation. She's being exploited. How could they do this?
Right. But I will say this, first and foremost. My aunt is the executive producer of this documentary. And she said, now is the perfect time because I want to take ownership of my story.
Our first caress.
For many, Wendy's story took a dramatic turn on Halloween of 2017 when she collapsed on her show, leading some to wonder whether Wendy, who openly talked about her health struggles and battle with alcohol and substance abuse, was in trouble. Her show went on. 2 years later, another setback.
I have been living in a sober house And you know, I've had a struggle with cocaine.
Then a messy divorce, bizarre behavior, and long absences from the set followed. In early 2022, The Wendy Williams Show was canceled.
From 6 years old, all I wanted was to be famous.
Months later, those documentary cameras began rolling, with Wendy hoping to reveal a career reboot. But that's not what producers found.
Did you have a liquid lunch? Because I came into your room and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I happened to notice one of your specialty items. So you think you're perfectly fine having as many drinks as you want?
Perfectly.
Okay. But I'm just going to put it downstairs to keep it cool.
Keep it there.
Okay.
Is she an alcoholic?
So in terms of being an alcoholic, I don't want to categorize her because, I'm not a medical professional, but what I can.
According to her team, these recent medical diagnoses were made sometime last year. Medical experts explain that primary progressive aphasia is caused by the deterioration of brain tissue responsible for speech and language. It is the same condition actor Bruce Willis is currently battling. Meanwhile, Wendy's son, Kevin Hunter Jr., has reportedly expressed deep frustration with the people surrounding his mother.
My aunt has had some unhealthy habits when it's come to alcohol.
They discovered a lonely, agitated woman.
People will look at this documentary and wonder, where's her family?
Right.
How come family's not there saving her?
Because family was shut out.
We would take responsibility with regard to guardianship and personal needs to ensure that she was healthy. I'm not talking about her money. You put the money over here.
A New York judge appointed a guardian to manage her life and finances. That action coming after her bank, Wells Fargo, claimed in 2022 court documents that Wendy was a victim of undue influence and financial exploitation.
The court is going to look at the best interest of the individual. It will be based on the evidence that's presented as to how the family was helping Wendy Williams at the time.
If it happens to me, it could happen to you.
Overnight, Wells Fargo telling ABC News this matter was conducted under seal. Any claims against Wells Fargo have been dismissed.
There was talk that Wells Fargo got involved in this because they thought either her son, Kevin Jr., or somebody was taking advantage of her financially.
Yeah.
Do you know that to be true?
So I personally have not seen family taking advantage of my aunt's money. I haven't.
Have you ever taken money from your mother's account?
Not without her consent.
Family members insisting their biggest concern is Wendy's well-being after noticing her apparent cognitive decline.
During this filming, at what point did you know something was seriously wrong?
Oh, right off the bat. When I saw her, she didn't have to say one thing. I knew that every cylinder is not firing the way it should.
You are bigger than this. You are better than this. You are smarter than this. You are stronger than this. People around you getting paid, they're going to tell you stuff to make you feel good.
So who benefits from this documentary? Is it family? Is it managers around her who are going to benefit from this?
I think that's a question I can't even answer. I know that, I will say this, family benefiting from this, no. I don't, no. I just hope that the person that comes out of this victorious is my aunt.
Now, what is it that you would like to have?
I've already told you. I've already told you.
Tell me again.
I want to be back on TV.
Your hopes for her? Do you think that she has a prayer of actually resuming a career?
I think that, well, I know that in talking with her, she does hope to resume a career. And my hope for her is that she does whatever she wants to do that makes her happy and that stays in the bounds of keeping her healthy.
Wendy Williams' family tells us that she's in a treatment facility, though they don't know where. They have heard from her and say she sounds much better. Where is Wendy Williams? The two-night documentary event premieres this Saturday on Lifetime, and you can catch more of my conversation with Alex tomorrow night on Nightline. Diane?
To speak out and talk about Diddy, Wendy Williams, they said her official health report, she is, well, I ain't going to read that, but basically it's not looking good. Her health is declining. They were talking about dementia and everything. A lot of people are speculating that allegedly this has been done to her. because of information she may have known. Look, man, it'd be so much going on. So much darkness in the world. For me, honestly, it's like, I know a lot of people lie, a lot of people make clickbait, all that type of stuff. But then you sit and you go, what if this is actually true? They always talk about hiding it in plain sight, and the fear doesn't allow us to believe. So we're gonna check this video out. Appreciate y'all. We ain't gonna waste no more time. Let's jump right into it.
It's definitely not the best time for people who love Wendy Williams, because her guardian, Sabrina Morrissey, recently revealed that Wendy is now cognitively impaired and permanently incapacitated. But what exactly does that mean for Wendy? Is it over for her? And can we really trust anything her sketchy guardian has said? Okay, I know that a lot of us were pretty hopeful with this Wendy situation, especially since Wendy was last seen in August 2024 during a shopping trip at a holistic wellness store in New Jersey, and the attendant said she appeared okay. Then in early October, she participated in a phone interview with the Daily Mail where she discussed other celebrities, including Diddy, but refrained from discussing her health issues in depth. But she did say in the phone interview about Diddy, what is really weird is that I have been told by so many people, Wendy, you called it, including some people from my family who have said the same. You know how I feel about that? It's about time. To see this video on TV of Cassie getting pummeled, it was just horrific. But now you have to think, how many more times? How many more people? How many more women? It's just so horrible. Now, after the August sighting and talking about Diddy, her fans had hoped that this was a sign that Wendy was actually getting better, because before this, there was absolutely nothing out there about how she was doing. Well, now, news reaching everyone is that Wendy has become cognitively impaired, permanently disabled, and legally incapacitated. This information is now public, courtesy of a court filing by her guardian, Sabrina. And in the documents, the legal team described Wendy as an acclaimed entertainer who tragically...
He believes that as long as Wendy remains in the company of enablers, people who support her destructive behaviors rather than helping her heal, she has little chance of recovery. And honestly, can you blame him? When someone is fighting addiction and severe health issues, the last thing they need is a circle of enablers prioritizing their own interests over the well-being of the person they claim to care about.
Keep in mind that Wendy and Diddy worked very closely together, but in an interesting way, because in 1993 he started Bad Boy Records, and in 1994 she was working in New York radio.
Puff got one of the hottest DJs off of Hot 97 because she wanted to put up a picture of him getting his pants pulled down. You understand what I'm saying? Puff had power.
And he still does, which is why so many people are scared of him and scared to tell their stories.
Kirk Burroughs, I did an interview with him some months ago, and he told a story about Wendy Williams. She got fired from Hot 97 because she had a picture of Puffy. So if you don't mind, give me the story from your point of view, and what was in the picture?
We were in Cancun. For whatever reason, dude was playing with Puff. He went behind him and grabbed his trunks and pulled them down. Some girls that was taking pictures. They took that picture and emailed it back to Wendy Williams. Wendy Williams said she had him in a compromising position and like he was gay, something like that. She was gonna put it out. Wendy had shown people that email. Puff told Hot 97 if they didn't get rid of her before he got back in New York, that they was not gonna get any music from any of his friends, any of the record labels executives that was cool with him. Everybody was going to boycott their station. We was out in LA for about 3 days before we landed back in New York. Wendy Williams was in the radio station in Philly.
She said there was a radio personality once upon a time. Her name was Wendy Williams, and she was practically burned at the stake for talking about such. And now everyone can kind of share their opinion.
There was a radio personality once upon a time. Her name was Wendy Williams, and she was practically burned at the stake for talking about such. And now it's all come full circle.
Honestly, kudos to Wendy. I hope she's doing well because she has always stayed true to her, her take. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But she's not going to back down and change things. And she stood up for herself against Diddy.
And yes, it's very effeminized, but be very clear. There were lots of homosexuals in hip hop back in the 80s too. That that was, what's worse, hip hop wearing skirts or hip hop being closeted and having a plethora of kids to prove manhood that, and denial of something that you shouldn't have to deny, which is your sexuality.
The total bitches were downstairs waiting, and everybody upstairs at the radio station is looking down, egging it on, waiting for something to go down. I wasn't yet married. My knight in shining armor screeched up in his car just out of nowhere. I didn't even know what was about to happen. I'm standing in the door like, what? And I'm
Adding fuel to the fire is the controversial Lifetime documentary, Where is Wendy Williams?, which aired earlier this year. While it aimed to provide viewers with insight into Wendy's current struggles, many feel it crossed the line into exploitation. The documentary painted a bleak picture of Wendy's vulnerabilities and declining health, with the
So the court filing is actually part of a broader legal dispute between Sabrina Morrissey and the production of the documentary titled Where is Wendy Williams?, which aired on Lifetime, offering a glimpse into Wendy's struggles with
Like, I know people get dementia and they get early dementia. I know that stuff exists. You don't want to say, oh, this person is a celebrity. This ain't supposed to happen to them. Like, they got all this money. They have all this access to stuff. I know this stuff happens to everybody, everyday people. It just be all the weirdness surrounding it. You know what I mean? Something always seems off. But again, we don't really know these celebrities. We only know what we see. And I know a lot of them be suffering in silence. But y'all know that feeling, that weird awkwardness that you get. You know what I mean? That's what I always get, that feeling, like when somebody be like, oh man, what's her name passed away? And I be like, I do this. I go, oh man.
alcohol and her personal life. Remember, Sabrina sued back in February to stop the doc from coming out, but it was ultimately released on Lifetime, and it highlighted Wendy's struggles with alcohol, including a scene where she downed an entire bottle of vodka. One of her loved ones was even filmed finding a bottle of vodka amongst her things and asked, "Did you drink this whole thing today?" And Wendy snapped back and instructed him to keep the bottle there while recovering in bed. In another scene from the documentary, Wendy got aggressive in the backseat of a car as she instructed the driver to go. Then, as she drove around her hometown of New York City, she admitted that she was unaware of her surroundings and said that the things around there didn't look familiar. One family member even theorized that she may be losing her memory, and another person said that anyone could look at her and tell it was not just drinking. There was something more going on. Well, Sabrina basically confirmed that there's so much more going on with Wendy's health. So she is now taking legal action to remove certain sensitive information, requesting that details regarding Wendy's health, family relationships, and finances be redacted to protect her privacy. She alleges that Wendy Williams was unjustly taken advantage of by the documentary, as she was clearly incapable of consenting to being filmed, much less humiliated and exploited. The filing also alleges Where is Wendy Williams was filmed without a valid contract and released without the guardian's consent. She also says in the filing, "We respectfully request that the court grant plaintiff's motion for limited redactions to protect non-public information from the guardianship proceeding that has been placed under seal by the court overseeing that process." Well, in a counterclaim for Lifetime, attorneys also hit out at Wendy's guardian for trying to stop the documentary, and they claimed she was inhibiting and interfering with the exercise of free speech rights regarding an issue of public concern by Lifetime. They claimed that Wendy's guardian wanted to stop the documentary from airing, which they said captured a raw, honest, and unfiltered window into the life of Wendy, a well-known public figure, after she was placed under guardianship. According to the claim, the documentary showed how the guardianship put in place to guard Wendy's interests instead isolated her from her family, left her largely alone.
Joining us now to provide some insight, our doctor in these health conditions, Partha Nandi, with us today. And Doc, she seems relatively young for this. I mean, what is this condition?
Yeah, I was really sad when I heard this. First of all, I commend Wendy Williams for sharing this very personal news and raising awareness concerning aphasia and frontotemporal dementia. As mentioned in her statement, many people are diagnosed with these, face stigma and misunderstanding. It's important to understand. Now, what is primary progressive aphasia and frontotemporal dementia? Well, frontotemporal dementia is the most common form of dementia for people under the age of 60. As you mentioned, she's young. And it's a group of brain disorders affecting the frontal and temporal lobes. Part of these lobes shrink, which can cause personality changes. People can have, behavioral problems with behaving inappropriately in social or work settings, and may also be impulsive or emotionally indifferent. As for primary progressive aphasia, this is a type of frontotemporal dementia. It's a neurological condition that affects a person's ability to speak and communicate. Symptoms can often appear before age 65. First, people have trouble finding the right words and pausing while speaking. Over time, the condition can worsen. They can progress from struggling to understanding conversations and expressing themselves to eventually losing the ability to talk or write and understand either. That's because parts of the brain that control language are breaking down and shrinking.